Welcome and thank you for joining this session on United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We're really excited to deliver this webinar alongside Techbuyer as part of a module we are completing at the University of York. Crucially, these goals are gaining an ever greater presence within organisations and are a great framework from which you can add value to your business while serving society.
So, being an international student who went to an international school abroad in Thailand, I have learned about the SDGs since it was first launched in 2015. It would be embedded into the curriculum as well as having a day off studies every year to focus solely on finding solutions to help achieve one or more of the goals. From an international and global perspective, young people are increasingly aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, and the trend seems to be going in the direction of tackling global challenges.
The SDGs are often a focus in many of my modules at university. In Decision and Information Analysis, we are currently trying to find an appropriate venue to host a hypothetical conference on the Sustainable Development Goals.
The idea that businesses should focus on social responsibility within their decision-making and day-to-day operations is something that I've experienced during the work experience year I undertook with HP. When the values of a company are used to guide decisions that limit harm and pursue positive impacts, it's a really valuable thing that everyone values and is really purposeful during the working day. With many issues within nature and society as a whole, any part that a business can play in making the world a better place is vital, both as a collective society and as sustainability is now becoming a business necessity.
Without the SDGs, there will be no clear direction for policymakers, businesses, and individuals to follow in their efforts to address some of the world's most pressing challenges, such as climate change, inequality, and poverty. The SDGs provide a framework for action that encourages collective action and collaboration to achieve a more sustainable and just world. While working towards the SDGs, we can create a world that is more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable for generations to come.
A student like us are constantly learning about these goals. Our buying habits have been influenced as we learn more and more about sustainability practice. By working with the goals, we believe a company is more likely to receive reciprocating engagement from younger generations.
Okay, so the benefits of getting involved for businesses. It's a world framework, so everybody recognises this. It's an attractive framework, as we've had in the comments before this webinar began. It's no coincidence that the colours and the branding on this framework is amazing, and it's really, really great for communicating online and promoting your brand values. We found it to be a fantastic employee engagement and motivation tool. It's also very good for attracting young talent to the organisation. It gives us a framework that allows us to communicate the good that we do in the same language as other companies and organisations worldwide. It's well recognised in the public sector, and it's well recognised amongst the top listed companies worldwide as well. Despite their level of engagement. It's a great way of demonstrating social value, which is a prerequisite in some of the public sector tenders. And it's just generally fun and enjoyable and gives everybody a shared sense of purpose when they come to work, which is really, really, really valuable, especially in a growing company. So the background to the goals, there are 17 of them. They're also known as the global goals, just for ease. They are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. So fairly lofty aims. The fact that they're a limited time creates a sense of urgency, and it also makes it easier for businesses to align to them, because we're used to doing things in 5, maybe 10-year plans rather than projects that never end. When you look at the UN sustainability goals, the headline goals are, as you see on this slide. If you want to understand what they actually mean, you need to go to the UN website and you need to look at the targets beneath the goals. And it's that target analysis that allows you to really, really understand what the goal means and how you can align to it. A great example of that is climate action. climate action is not steps to reduce your energy usage. It's more climate adaptation. Those are a lot of the targets around that, and a little bit about advocacy for climate action. So you really need to understand what you're looking at and how you can align before you begin the process. However, once you've done that, it's relatively straightforward to align your targets to targets that have been stated by the UN. The UN SDGs are important because they are recognised worldwide, because all UN member states have signed up to them, because they articulate a better future for all of us in a very, very positive way. They are a positive framework, and that's something that you need to understand when we align to them. If you're going to take sustainability seriously and measure performance against people, planet, profit, this may not be the only thing that you're doing, but it is a nice way to articulate the benefit that you bring to society, to advertise that to the market and your internal stakeholders, and also to create ambition. So not forget what your aims are going forward and make sure you're continually improving on them. One of the things that they will ask you to do when you're aligning to the UN Sustainable Goals is look at what you're doing and then add stretch to what you're doing. The idea is that you don't just operate business as usual, you increase your impact over time. And you do that to such an extent that you may not hit some of those targets, especially if you're running them over 5 years and you're growing fast in between times. But failing to hit all of those targets will still get you further than doing nothing at all. So we aligned to the UN Sustainability Goals when we were a company of 92 people. We went to a roadshow that was run by the UN, and we met a guy called Colin Curtis, who runs Triple Bottom Line Services, and he gave us some support and some consultancy on how we would align to these. The first step was getting people from around the company, all different departments and all different levels, into a room to discuss all of the goals in detail. We went through all 17 of the goals and we looked at all targets underneath all of the goals, and we gave them a rating. And the rating was based on how important they were to stakeholders, which was 1 score, which is expressed in the vertical axis. Then the significance to the business. How does it align to what we actually do? That was on the horizontal line. That was a different score. And then there was an additional score that was given that was based on how much we believed we could influence these targets. So key one for us would be responsible consumption and production. Techbuyer is a sustainable IT provision service. We look at circular economy in all its forms for our customers. We also institute circular economy in the company, and we look at energy efficiency. So that was an obvious goal for us. Quality education was another obvious goal, because we spend so much time educating ourselves and our customers on sustainable technology, because we have to, because we operate in a niche market. We also looked at decent work and economic growth as well, which was aligned to our internal training, our body system, our work with charities, developing skills, etc., etc. Quality education. Education is key market for us. Health and wellbeing, health and wellbeing is key market for us. And then when we looked at the charitable outreaches that we'd had so far, it was a lot of running the Great North Run for Mind, or it was a whip round for another a mental health charity, for example, or it was sponsorship of equipment for a local hospice. So it really aligned with what we were doing already. And then gender equality was quite a big one for us, just because our company is quite unusual in the number of women that it has for the tech sector. So that's something that we were kind of looking at. We then went through a second process, and that was writing down targets, sample targets that would suit the company, and creating a framework that would work over, well, it was a trial year for the first year and then a 5-year program. When we did that, we condensed the number of targets that we were actually looking at. So decent work and economic growth actually fit in better with quality education, because we couldn't separate the targets out in a way that was comfortable. Gender equality was again built more into the ethics of quality education. When we started setting targets around gender equality, we kind of ran into problems that around what our feeling was towards gender equality. We obviously are not, we're fans of gender equality, but that's not the only equality that we would be supporting. So it seemed a little strange just to pick one. So we ended up with 3 key targets, 3 key goals and 9 targets set against them. And there, what you see in this slide here. So a good approach here is to align your targets with different areas of the business. So the top line here is the targets are based on our sales figures and also based on the amount of equipment that we managed to purchase and bring into our facility. So those are core elements of the business. We're adding stretch in there to ensure that if we're going to save additional money for education, that's built into these targets. And it also focuses us on these sectors as key sectors that we want to help with. Advocating for a sustainable future, companies of any size do well to communicate with their local communities, with their trade associations, with their market. And these targets align well with that outreach and engagement process. And giving where we can make a difference is something that everybody can get involved with throughout the company. In fact, having said that, a lot of people get involved with advocating for a sustainable future as well, just in different ways and in different arenas. But it was really something that, you know, the company has always had an ethos of giving back. So that kind of aligned nicely with us as well. So engagement avenues and what happened next. So after we set up this programme, because it is a framework that's reported on monthly, and everybody gets involved with, from board level right throughout the company, all global offices have these goals reported to them and are invited to contribute towards them. It enabled us to set up a sustainability committee as a result of that, which runs our progress towards the global goals, tracks progress, thinks of ideas, supports people who come to the committee with ideas as well, which means that sustainability is growing throughout the company. It doesn't sit just in one department, and that's really, really important. Internal communications have been an add-on to that. Sorry, I should just mention that our sustainability committee is now kind of growing into sustainability reporting and also charities and time off for volunteering, all the good stuff. It's just given us a focus to kind of spread that out through the company. We've had lots of fun as a result of supporting the Sustainable Development Goals. Some of the races that we've mentioned here would have happened anyway. We do the Knaresborough bed race every single year. Total Warrior was a nice way of contributing towards our active hours for ourselves and our community's health and well-being. It was just a great excuse to get a team together and throw them in there. Exercise bike challenges. We also took a team down to the National Museum of Computing to boost our hours. Educating young people about sustainable technology. We ran a day's worth of workshops with schools from the south of England. I've mentioned the charity committee. We've had training sessions with all global offices, which just keeps us in touch. It allows the sustainability committee and the sustainability department to be better in touch with all the things that are going on inside the company so that we can align that with a central framework. We've been able to include the support the goals branding in communications, which turns out to be incredibly powerful. You know, we posted a flag which was to do with Support the Goals Day. That's possibly the most engaged with social media post that we had for Interact, which is our software machine learning company, which is ironic really, because the same company has published papers in the IEEE Transactions on Sustainable Computing, which don't go down so well. So it's a great kind of branding opportunity there. And then activating the goals has been a great excuse to run webinars like this. And it's also led to externally certified training that we now run for our partners at our offices. So this is where we are 3 years into our 6-year programme. We're doing well on achieving savings for educational institutions. Well, you can see the slide, quite a lot of the goals we're doing well on. The big challenge for us was that we grew from 92 people to 320 people in the space of those 3 years, which meant that the goals that we were setting way back in 2019, we were doing them blind, and we were doing them in a high growth company, and some of that was not predictable. So as a result, and we also didn't know COVID was going to hit. So you can see there are 3 targets that we're running behind on, contributing hours, the education of young people, quite a lot to do with the fact that they closed the schools for a while. Donating kilos of technology to education bodies. Again, that wasn't helped by COVID, and just like, connection with charities, some of the charities closing their offices. And creating relationships with health and wellbeing charities. We are, numerically behind on that, but that's because we've set parameters on that. So we've decided that it has to be 3 times within 1 year or 3 consecutive years. So we'd expect to catch up on that goal within the next year or so. Looking at this month on month is useful because it allows us to identify where we're not doing well and then channel all our efforts into boosting those numbers. So our target at the moment is donating kilos of technology to education bodies around the world. If we hadn't had this framework, that would have been something that we would have liked to have done, but could have possibly been forgotten as the company changed, the company evolved. It hasn't been forgotten because we have to report on this to ourselves on a monthly basis and publicly year on year. So that's something that's enabled us to maintain our focus and really, get behind it going forward. So that's our key KPI, I guess, for the next 3 years. Yeah. So that's a little bit about us. I hope you find it engaging and also confidence building, because what this webinar is about is saying these are not just for the big boys. You will see them on multinational sustainability reports, but it doesn't have to be just them that align to the goals. It is relatively straightforward to set your own targets and chart progress towards those targets. And you can get recognition publicly by doing so, not just on social media, but also through frameworks like Support the Goals, which is free to join. And they will also help you get star ratings to express to your customers and your stakeholders and your market how well you're doing. So I'm going to stop now, and the team are going to take you through the 5 key steps on how we do it.
So if you could go on to the next slide. Cool. So first off, we have to identify the most relevant goals to your organisation. You may want to use the matrix that was shown in the Techbuyer case study section. This was the grid that had Techbuyer's goals along the left-hand side, and then the 3 sustainable development goals that aligned with each of Techbuyer's. To narrow down the 17 goals to build this matrix, you may want to begin with where your business creates value. There can be great opportunities to slot in activities to support the goals here. To benefit from increased stakeholder engagement, considering which goals matter most to them is also an easy way to narrow them down. Lastly, you want to make sure that your support is viable and as easy as possible. You'll want to make sure that your chosen goals complement your future business plans.
Step 2.
So moving on to step 2 then, once you've identified the goals that are most relevant to your organisation and have established which you'll be able to have the most impact upon within your business, it's important to set a target that you wish to achieve in relation to those goals. So ensuring that these are stretched to ensure that the business can create the most value possible is important, because you don't want to make something so easy to achieve. You want to regularly track it on a regular basis and have the most value created as possible for the business, but also society as a whole. It's important to go beyond them because things that may easily align with your business activities, by extending this, it means that you have the most benefit for your employees and stakeholders on a broader level.
So once you've set your targets and started taking action, publicly announce these targets and publish sustainability reports like the example shown in the slide. You should aim to report on your progress at least annually.
The benefits of sustainability reporting include better risk management, costs and saving optimization, decision-making facilitation, and improved corporate confidence and reputation.
So for step 4, after announcing these targets and published sustainability reports, you'll be engaging in the SDG community by sharing your content online or start to join some movements like Support Goals.
Finally, to kind of wrap things up and how you get involved, step 5 involves educating your supply chain through forums such as this webinar. So by educating others, you can ensure that the goals that your business gets involved with achieves the widest outreach possible. And it's always about, as Astrid said, it's not just MNCs that can get involved. If SMEs know that they can and relatively easily, then it's good to publicise this and get as many people involved as possible to make the most difference.